guys? Welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered. We are blessed to be joined by Antonio Cromartie. David, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me today. I'm super excited to talk to you. I see a potential cornerback one.
Can move very well, can play man-to-man very well.
I think that he is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
He does things that are so amazing, and the competitor in him is just special.
I'm excited, man, and I can't wait to get there. I think it does really fit my skill set.
Hello, and welcome to a new edition of Texans Unfiltered. My name is Patrick Storm, and I am joined by my friend and now co-host, Jair Lopez. Jair, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Dude, excited to finally be able to get this started.
Yeah, I'm glad you're. We've gotten you a little more involved here recently. You've done a lot of writing and everything like that. But now getting you on the pod is going to be excellent. And I know you bring a lot of really good insight and details on Twitter. And I think people they need to be able to put a face to the name and get you some more recognition that you deserve. So, well, cool, man. We'll jump it off here real quick and start with last week, the first preseason game of the year. What were some of your thoughts on how things went? What you saw, what kind of stood out for you?
You want to start on offense first, and then we kind of segue to the defense?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let's start on offense.
All right, so offense. There wasn't, obviously the first string offense was probably relatively pretty impressive considering Tyrod Taylor's coming into his first year into a new offense, new system, new teammates, and he went, I believe, 4 for 4 in his first drive and his only drive, and he looked really comfortable with Chris Conley in specific, and also the running game looked pretty decent overall. I mean, they were able to move the ball down the field into field goal range, and probably the only part that kind of worried me a little bit was the fact that they used David Johnson on the third down play, and as we know from last year, he wasn't really productive towards getting a first down.
So with that, the 3rd and 1 run play by David Johnson, like you said, with what we knew from last season, how they used him and things like that. You've got two new running backs in that group now between Phillip Lindsay and Mark Ingram. In that situation there, out of the other two, who would you think would have been a better tool to use on that play given the situation?
Probably the most suited back for like short yardage situations would probably have been Mark Ingram, considering he's probably the most physical back we have on the roster, and he's probably the most from a bruising perspective of bruising back. He's probably the most similar when it comes to like Carlos Hyde, who had a lot of success in his 1 year here in Houston. So hopefully, maybe tomorrow they're able to maybe give him a few snaps and see how he looks in those type of situations.
Absolutely, I agree. I think Mark Ingram. When the signing first happened, I was a little. I don't know. I was a little hesitant to see how it was gonna work out. Just because from an age perspective of how old he is. But then again, he's coming into an offense that he's very familiar with, being over there with David Culley in Baltimore the year prior, and things like that. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I think he would have been a better choice in that situation. But then again, it's preseason, so I don't want to put too much weight into the things that they did. They're trying things out. They're seeing how things work. And let's not forget that offensive line is kind of they're playing musical chairs right now. They were missing three guys that were out with the COVID protocols with Tunsil and Titus and Roger Johnson weren't there. and now Roderick's no longer on the roster. So, real quick, I want to touch on that and the offensive line. So today we saw Laramie Tunsil tweet out a video, and I want to say it was the Raiders, of how their left side of the line was just bullying people. And he tagged Titus in it. And there's been a lot of speculation that Titus is going to play left guard in this upcoming season. I think today that tweet right there maybe a little bit kind of put it into the speculation and confirmed what everybody's been thinking. So given that, how do you think what do you think about Titus playing left guard?
Can you repeat the last part?
So what like, given the, with all the speculation that's been going on, with, where everybody's going to play and whether it's going to be Titus at right tackle or Marcus Cannon or Charlie Heck, Titus at left guard, what is your thoughts on a combo of Laramie Tunsil at left tackle and Titus Howard at left guard?
Man, I think the left side's going to be really solid next year if they decide to go with Titus Howard at guard. But I don't know. I'm kind of split right now because I feel like wherever they play Titus Howard, he's going to excel. I mean, obviously, he's barely had any time playing at left guard or at the guard position because in his rookie season, when they had him at guard against the Detroit Lions, I believe he fractured one of his fingers. So that kind of kept him out from really taking too many reps on the inside. But then whenever they played him against the Chargers in his rookie year at left guard against a really good Chargers defense, he looked really comfortable. So what was it, Chargers or was it the Jaguars where he played left guard?
Man, I don't remember.
Yeah,
when it comes to something like that, when it's just plug and play like that, it's very hard for me to remember that. I would have to go back and look.
Yeah, because now that I think about it, I think it was Chargers. It was Sharping at left guard and Howard at right tackle. Well, either way, he played one of those games at left guard, and he just looked comfortable. So he has the athleticism, he has the technique, the hands, the awareness to be able to play inside. He's gonna be an above average athlete at the guard position. So it's not gonna be a problem in my opinion. And from the beginning, whenever they drafted him, they said he could play all four positions. Obviously, you don't really plan on drafting a guard in the first round unless you're really elite. But in the case of Howard, he's kind of proven early on that no matter where you play him, he just looks comfortable. So, would I prefer for him to play at right tackle, where they've already kept him there for the longest? Yeah, ideally, I would have preferred for him to stay at right tackle. But it's a different O-line coach. We're going from Devlin to James Campen, and I kind of have a little bit of faith, even though it's blind faith, but in that James Campen knows more of how to play players to their strengths than Mike Devlin did. So if he sees Howard being able to play at a high level at left guard, I wouldn't mind to see how it goes. And obviously, if for whatever reason Marcus Cannon or Charlie Heck struggles at right tackle, we can scrap the plan and put him back at right tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Titus can he could play anywhere on that line. Really, like you said, he's a really good athlete for his size. He's really quick. I'd be really interested to see him pulling from that left guard position on some of these run plays and stuff like that. So I like where they're going with it. Charlie Heck at right tackle. They spoke the other day, and Culley said that he's probably the most improved player on this roster. That's coach speak, and that's one of those things that you just got to kind of take with a grain of salt. But who knows? I mean, his dad's the offensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, so he's obviously coming from a background of offensive line, and those guys over in Kansas City always kind of have their stuff together, regardless of who's out there. So maybe he took some tips from dear old dad, and he's applying it to camp so far this season. And maybe we're in for a treat. Maybe Bill O'Brien was right for moving around in the fourth round to come up and get him. So yeah, we'll see.
The only thing, real quick, is that probably my only concern, the only playing devil's advocate, is that is Titus Howard really that good at guard, or are we just that crappy at guard that we need to play him inside?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and there's so many new faces in that group, right? They brought in Justin Britt. They've brought in Lane Johnson, who is still, I believe, on the PUP list.
Lane Taylor.
Still on Lane Taylor, sorry.
I bet. Yeah.
He's still on the pup list, and you haven't really been able to see those guys yet. So who knows if those guys come off the pup list before week 1, or even week 2 or week 3, and they're obviously a little bit better at the guard position, and they plug them in there, and they move Titus back to right tackle. Then there's a little bit of shuffling, but I think you put some guys more back at their more natural position. So it may be kind of like last year where we saw the offensive line shift around a little bit week to week, just until they can kind of get a grasp on how things are going to work out for them. So we'll jump back to last weekend on the defense. What we've seen a lot of stuff on the internet and on the social media about who's been standing out at camp and stuff like that. And one name that really has been out there a lot that I'm very surprised at was Big Vernon Hargraves. So how do you feel that that group, the defense, did last week in the preseason?
Overall, considering they played against a former first round pick just like a year ago in Jordan Love, I think they did okay. Like, what did they hold the offense to, like 10 points the whole game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was 10 points. They did pretty good overall. I mean, they were getting to the quarterback. I mean, they were at least pressuring the quarterback. There's a few times. The defense, I mean, I'm not worried about the front seven to a certain point. I mean, well, it's obviously the preseason, but from last game, the front seven looked okay. Like, they were getting pressure from DeMarcus Walker. He really stood out to me. John Grenard got that forced fumble. Who else got the forced fumble? Do you remember?
Man, I'm going to be blatantly honest with everybody. I did not watch the game. I was at the Dynamo game, so I got to see. I was seeing clips of it, trying to watch it on my phone, but I could not get to watch the whole game.
Okay, yeah, I remember now. My bad. It was I think it was a bad handoff between the quarterback and the running back. So Jaleel Johnson just recovered it. So it wasn't really a forced fumble, but it was still good awareness by Jaleel Johnson, who had both of the forced fumbles that game. But overall, the defense looked pretty good.
Yeah. I know one point of emphasis that's been that they've talked about in camp and is turnovers, right? Last year we saw just nothing, like absolutely nothing as far as turnovers last year, right? It did not feel like these guys were going out there and the old saying is see ball, get ball. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like that was driven into their heads last year. And I think that Lovie Smith coming in, being a little bit more of an old school head when it comes to the defensive mentality, he's teaching these guys just go out there. If you see that ball, punch at it, throw yourself at it, throw a shoulder into it, fly around that field and let's create turnovers, because all it's going to do is create more opportunity. So by all accounts, that was kind of what was going on in the game. Is these guys were, they were being aggressive, and I like that. I think that's something that this defense has missed for a few years. Since 2015, 2016, when we had one of the little bit better defenses in the league. I feel like that might be. I think it might shock some people. I know a lot of people were kind of hesitant when Lovie got hired, just because of his history and how things ended his last tenure in the NFL, and how things went in college for him. But he's got that mentality and the knowledge and the wherewithal to teach these guys, what's expected and what they need to do to be successful. And I feel like they've brought in enough veteran presence and enough veteran, and I'm going to use talent lightly, because they don't have a whole lot of superstar power on the defense, but there's enough guys out there now that they know what's expected of them, and they've had some okay success elsewhere that I feel like they can go out there and they can definitely turn this defense around. I wouldn't definitely put them in the top 10, but they're going to be by far better than they were last year. So,
and if you look at the defense, I mean, they don't have good players right now, but they have good talent. So over the last few years, they drafted Lonnie Johnson in the second round. They drafted Ross Blacklock in the second round. They drafted John Grenard in the third round. So they have players with the tools to, that if they can get it all together, they could possibly be positive contributors on this defense. So it's really all about just hopefully the new coaching staff can really, get the best out of them, because they have the intangibles, the everything you want from those positions. You just need to really let those players actually play and, give them the confidence, like, hey, this year is really going to be a rebuild year. So it's just about seeing, who can really play, and just, if they make a few mistakes, don't just yank them, because that might, it's all about just, building confidence and just letting players play, getting film on them, getting some tape, and seeing what they can do.
Definitely. All right. So, kind of like, I know people probably saw the title of the stream and they're like, what the hell is backwards is forwards? So, I've been thinking about this for a few weeks, and I even kind of posed the question to James and John on Tuesday. When it comes to a roster of the nature that they're in right now, where they've got a ton of these guys on 1 and 2 year deals, right? Nick Caserio came in, and in essence kind of cleaned house. He's gotten rid of a lot of guys that were been around for a few years on some really bad contracts. Even some guys that were only here for a year and got rid of them they were on really bad contracts. He's restructured some guys, and did not re-sign a lot of guys. There is a ton of new faces. So obviously this roster has taken a big step backwards, right? From where we were. I mean, the fall from grace. I mean, we've had JJ Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney, and a ton of DJ Reader,
Tyrann Mathieu,
like, Carlos Hyde, when he was here, he had a really good year. And so now all those guys have moved on, and we're in this place where, like, all of a sudden we're like, you're like, who the hell did they just sign? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, there for a while, they're signing linebacker after linebacker, and you're like, who is that? You have to run to Google real quick and look this guy up, because you've never heard of him, right? Mm. So I think, and I pose this, like I said, I pose this question to John and James, is having a roster full of 1 and 2 year deals, does it give you an advantage or a disadvantage? So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel gives us an advantage, because if they don't end up working out, we're not tied to them long term. And that's the biggest thing for this upcoming year, is don't sign any bad contracts. Don't, tie up money into players that might not be a fit in the long term. Like, we signed so many players last year trying to compete, and it ended up kind of backfiring. Like Eric Murray, we signed to that contract. Randall Cobb, we got lucky that we were able to offload his contract. Just contracts like that we can't afford moving forward, especially with the whole pandemic thing. Like, there was barely any salary cap increase. So we were kind of lucky that, in a way, we were able to maneuver around the salary cap and free up money so we could get so many players. But in this case, since we're signing them to short deals, it doesn't really affect the long term. And if they play good, we already have them in our system. We know what they can do. We can re-sign them. If they suck, we can let them go. Or if they walk to another team and get a bigger deal, we can probably get a comp pick maybe. So right now, I think Caserio's approach has been, for the most part, flexibility. So, if it works out, cool. If it doesn't, keep moving forward.
So yeah, and I tend to agree. And the only disadvantage I see on it is some of these guys. And so the reason why I pose this question is I thought about like the mentality of the guys on the field, right? These guys on a 1 year deal, they're here to prove themselves, right? So naturally they're going to play a little bit harder, right? They're going to go out there and they're going to kind of put their body on the line a little bit better, or a little more. They're not going to be, so inclined to be, okay, I need to make a business decision when it comes to this hit or this tackle or something like that, right? You hear that a lot about guys that have gotten paid or on the cusp of getting paid. these really, really big contracts. I feel like you're going to have a lot of guys that are going to come out and compete at a little bit higher level than what they usually do because they're looking for that payday. So I think that gives you a little bit of an advantage. The disadvantage I see is some of these guys may price themselves out of re-signing with this team if they outperform expectations, right? And yeah, you know, you're going to let some guys walk, and it's naturally going to happen. You're not going to be able to retain everybody. I understand that. And you do have the ability to maybe get some comp picks. But the comp formula is really tricky to navigate, right? There's some teams that are really, really good at it, and other teams that really don't utilize it a lot. And I feel like the Texans have been one that don't. In the past few years, they really haven't utilized it a ton.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you lose several guys, that just creates more holes in the roster and more guys you're going to have to sign, and then the potential to, you know, cancel out on the comp formula. So that's the only disadvantage I do see. But overall, I definitely see it as an advantage moving forward. I think it gives them the ability to create a huge and a very strong foundation for this team to essentially rebuild on, given everything that's been happening over the past, we'll say 2-3 years.
And the funny thing about that, real quick, is that I think the only players that got 2-year deals was Kevin Pierre-Louis, the linebacker, and cornerback Tavir Thomas. So that kind of shows you that the defense overall next year might be completely different. Because, it's only been 2 contracts pretty much on defense.
What did Cam Johnson get? He got a 3-year deal, I thought. I know it's a punter, but still.
Yeah.
The punter. So he got a 3-year deal, but, that's okay.
And I think most of the money is guaranteed for this year.
Yeah.
So the next 2 years are pretty much non-guaranteed for the most part, or pretty team friendly if they want to release them.
Absolutely. But by all accounts, man, I've heard that dude is just out there booming kicks. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see that and kind of see how he goes. And real quick, I saw a picture today. I've seen pictures of him today, but he posted a picture on his Instagram of him and his wife out at camp. And our friend of the show, Craig, who is on Twitter is Scottish Texans. I sent him the picture and I was like, Craig, I didn't know you were on the team. I'm dead serious. They're twins. Like it had me laughing. So, you put out the other day, you put out your 53-man projection of the roster. And I kind of want to go through it and just touch on some things and get your reasoning behind, some of the guys you have on there. Who you expect to start, and so on and so forth. And obviously, the quarterback position is the one that everybody's going to be curious about. But I think we kind of all know the direction that's heading at this point. So we'll kind of just skip over that and we'll jump right into the running backs. So you've got on here 4 running backs with Ingram, Lindsey, Johnson, and Scotty Phillips. Who's your starter out of that 4?
I feel you got to give it to Philip Lindsay, because he's the younger player, the fresher legs. I feel like David Johnson and Mark Ingram, they're going to be more like on a pitch count, like more like a running back by committee. Like obviously Lindsay's going to be like the starter, but then whoever has the hot hand from the backups, they're going to be the ones that are going to get the most carries, because you never know what you might get whenever the running back hits 30. He might have a good game, or he might look rusty, because they've already had a lot of carries, and it might, age, Father Time is undefeated, so you never know. Maybe one game, one running back's looking better than the other.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to that group, definitely Philip Lindsay will start. I see David Johnson as more of a situational back at this point. Right. We know he is very good when they get him outside the numbers. We know he is very good at catching the ball out of the backfield. Being a former wide receiver when he first started playing, and then, coming into the NFL and being a running back. So he has that ability to catch the ball. And so I think that they may, we may even see some 2-back sets with those guys, kind of throw some defenses off. And if he runs a little flare, just a dump route, and he's that check down for him. So
And that was something
Yeah.
they were doing against the Packers. I'm pretty sure I saw 2 running backs in the same time, or it was also the running back and the fullback. So I think this upcoming year, Tim Kelly's going to be a little bit more inclusive, and he might involve multiple running backs in the offense.
Definitely. Yeah, and I just want to Tony put this. This is a really good comment by Tony that David Johnson is an expensive situational back at just over $4.5 million. But this coaching staff, I don't get the sense that they give a crap about what your contract looks like or your draft status or anything like that. And I like that. So, like, while I agree with Tony, it's one of those things that they've done the best they could to address that contract when they restructured it for him. But they got to go with what works best for this team. So, I agree, Tony, but it's just one of those things that at the end of the day on Sundays, money shouldn't matter.
And I think the biggest thing too is that whenever David Johnson got acquired to the Texans, I was just looking up, whenever Bruce Arians, whenever he was retired, and he was kind of speaking on David Johnson because they asked him a question about it, like they were asking why he was struggling. They were saying that David Johnson was pretty much another receiver in a way. So whenever he was across from, I don't want to misquote him because I don't have it right now, but from my impression, he was best utilized when he was across from Larry Fitzgerald as a receiving, because he was pretty much a mismatch against linebackers and slower defenders.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be like the biggest key for him if we're able to see any success this upcoming year is use him more in the passing game, because that's what he brings the most value. Because as a runner, he's below average to average. He had those few games last year where you might think, oh, he might have something left, but maybe it was just bad defenses. But I don't know, like I'm kind of stuck on. I do tend to lean that he's not the David Johnson that we wanted to believe he was, but he still. A big part was also that he was dealing with those mental issues last year, like all the stress and all that type of stuff, and that's real. All that pressure. Because he was kind of dealt a bad hand. Being the component in the DeAndre Hopkins trade. Besides the second round pick, he was all eyes were on him basically, and he pretty much wanted to prove him right. And that's kind of a bad spot to be in, a lot of pressure overall too. And not to mention there was a bad O-line in general. So maybe this year we see a little bit of a better side to him. But I kind of do agree with Tony. That contract, it won't reflect, whatever he brings this year, but I still think he might bring some positive value to the Texans.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, he's not going to go out there and he's not going to rattle off Derrick Henry numbers this season or even next year. But he's a guy that you can count on that, if you, just in the mismatches and stuff like that, that's somebody that they can utilize. And that's going to be key for this offense is, how they utilize these guys and get mismatches. So, all right, so let's jump over to the tight ends. You put Jordan Akins, Brevin Jordan, and Pharaoh Brown. So you're thinking Kahali Waring gets cut?
Yeah,
which
for sure.
I think, is long overdue. And it's funny. I thought about this the other day. Somebody had, I think, retweeted the article when Ryan Griffin got arrested in Nashville the night of the draft when Kahali was drafted for punching that window. And I was like, man, this guy really got cut for punching a window on a guy he thought was going to replace him, who wasn't going to replace him. I was just like, man, because he went up to the Jets and he did okay up there. He still put up some okay stuff, but I found that funny. So I think I can pick up on this one, but you think Jordan Akins is going to be the starter?
I think Pharaoh Brown might be the starter.
Really?
Yeah. I like
Okay.
Jordan Akins. Don't get me wrong. He can do some good things as a pass catcher, but if you're talking about complete tight end, Pharaoh Brown's the nearest thing to it on this depth chart, at least. You know, he can catch the ball, he can block, he can play the H back. You know, he's a load to bring down. Like, you know, if you can put it all together, he's probably the better option. And we actually have a decent tight end coach in Andy Bishop from the Ravens, and they do a pretty good job at, you know, coaching up the tight ends. And then, you know, and it's gonna be really underrated because remember that interview we heard, I think it was from Maxo, about Jordan Akins, how he said that Darren Fells was really the one teaching him how to block and stuff like that, a player. You know, so we finally have an actual tight end coach who can, you know, teach him the nuances and the everything you need to know about the position. You don't really gotta be second guessing because, and at the same time, I think Pharaoh Brown might be younger than Jordan Akins, so that's also a major plus because I think Akins might be like close to, I think he might be 29 or 30, you know? So you kind of have to wonder, like, is he already a finished product? You know, is it his, you know, ceiling a lot, you know, did he reach his ceiling, his potential? You know, is this the best he's ever going to be? So I think Pharaoh Brown has a bigger upside overall too.
Yeah, Pharaoh's 27, Jordan's 29. Jordan was drafted as a much older player than normal because he had gone baseball first.
Yeah.
So kind of got a little bit of a, you know, a disadvantage for him there. His time in the NFL will definitely be, you know, probably shorter than most. But you know, he's making the most of it as it is right now. And he's showing some flashes. But man, Pharaoh at starter, I can see it though. Like I get everything you're saying. So you know, and there's a little bit of speculation that when Aikens showed up to mini camps or OTAs that he was a little bit out of shape or a little bit overweight. But I think they, you know, coming in, he just had AB. And so there was, you know, he had some things going on. Everybody's coming out of lockdown and everything like that. They're not able to work out in their normal routines and things like that. But he's you know, he's shed the weight and he's gotten in shape really quick. So I don't think they really cared about that. But yeah, man. When you said Pharaoh Brown's a haul to bring in, you know, he showed some fight last year and some grit when it came to some of these you know, times he was getting tackled and put that little extra effort forward. And I know that really kind of went over well with the coaching staff and the front office. So very cool. All right. So now this group here is one that I'm probably the most intrigued about, is going to be the wide receiver group. So you've got 6 on here: Cooks, Conley, Collins, Kuti, Roberts, and Moore. So obviously we just saw, oh man, what's his name get cut?
Isaiah Coulter,
right? So we saw him; he got cut recently. So out of that group, I want to give you my starters real quick. I'm going to say Cooks, Nico, and Kiki.
That's tough.
Those are my starting 3 wide receivers. What do you think?
I agree with you with Nico and Cooks, but Kiki, you know, I do like him, but I feel like we were an injury away from him not being on the roster with Anthony Miller.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like whenever we got Miller, it pretty much showed, you know, we don't have the most confidence that, you know, Kiki's going to be the natural successor to Randall Cobb. I mean, obviously they said the trade wasn't, you know, related to the Randall Cobb trade, that they just got Anthony Miller because he was available. But I don't know, man. Like last year, I think he had 4 fumbles in 8 games. You know, so he's shown flashes, but at the same time, if he's not able to, you know, run the right routes and have better ball security, he's not going to be a lock to make the roster. Obviously, I have him on this early roster because, you know, he makes the most sense. But I could also see, you know, Alex Erickson or maybe, who knows, maybe Taywan Taylor, you know, obviously, but more Alex Erickson obviously I didn't have him on this mock roster because I'm kind of interested in what I can see from Chris Moore, right?
Mhm.
Or yeah, but I'm I would probably put Cooks, Conley, and Collins as my starting receivers.
You think Cooks would be probably the slot guy then? And have
Maybe
Conley and Nico on the outsides?
I could see that. I mean, yeah, because you kind of want those, big, strong receivers, physical, who can be good blockers in the run game too. Because I feel
Yeah.
like we're gonna be very run heavy. So if you put, Nico Collins who's 6'4", and you put Chris Collins who's 6'3" on the outside, that's really gonna open the run game.
Yeah, I think Nico is probably my favorite draft pick at this point. Um, given, some of just the video clips and stuff like that was seen coming out of camp. Some of the stuff that, everybody's been talking about, just the intangibles and the way he's, just the way he is carrying himself in practice and things like that, and the plays he's making, and his intelligence. I think that's probably going to be, looked at as one of the better picks in this draft, the draft as a whole, not just for the Texans, but as the league, right? Like you got this guy, he kind of fell down some people's boards because of injuries and stuff like that. But I think, I think that's probably going to be one of the better draft picks. Um,
And if he
so you don't,
plays, last year, because I believe he opted out last
yeah,
year.
yeah, he didn't play last year because he opted out. Yeah,
If he would have played, it would have probably been a higher draft pick in my opinion, because he has everything pretty much, and the fact that Ben McDaniel's, Pep Hamilton, we got two former Michigan coaches who worked with him, who know what he can do and what he can't do early on. So I feel like they're gonna put him in spots to succeed. And we also got Robert Prince, who everyone's been saying that he's a really good wide receiver coach. So we have coaches on the offensive staff that know him and can coach him up real quick, so he won't be like a bust like Jalen Strong or Braxton Miller. One of those early third round draft picks who just flamed out or just never really showed anything.
man, those two guys. Although I didn't really have a whole lot of high hopes for Braxton Miller, but Jalen Strong, man, yeah, I absolutely thought, but they were so close to getting. Oh man, he's in Seattle now.
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, they were so close to getting Lockett, man. That broke my heart. All right. Moving on. We got. So you don't think? So you think Miller starts the season on IR, or you think that they cut him outright?
For sure. Yeah, I tweeted earlier that I thought Miller would have been an IR like early on, but I forgot completely that he has to make the initial roster and then place him on IR so he can return. So shout out to Texans Cap for that.
Yeah, they may do that, and you'll see there will be some teams that do that. Definitely, they carry an injured player onto the initial 53, and then the next day place him on IR, and then a day or two later they fill that spot again with somebody else. So, all right. So the offensive line group, you've got them with 4 tackles, Tunsil and Howard, obviously. Heck, and then you have Cannon as a tackle. Do you think that changes now with what we kind of know now?
I think so. Yeah, I think Tunsil. I still have Tunsil, Heck, and Cannon as the 3 tackles, and then the 4th. I think it might be Jerron Christian. Oh, the Casario. He claimed him off waivers from the Washington football team.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former 3rd round pick. I think it was in the 2018 draft. I mean, he showed some things at first. That's why they traded away Trent Williams. But then things didn't work out. Obviously Washington's a really dysfunctional franchise. But he was actually decent in the Green Bay game. He didn't have any, fatal mistakes or anything like that that really put Tyrod Taylor in harm's way or anything like that. So, and obviously they liked him enough to, cut, Rod Johnson. So
yeah, I think Rod's been on the bubble for the past couple of years anyway. Was it last year? Yeah, I think last year he was up and down off the practice squad or whatever it was that they they can, elevate players and stuff like that, I believe. So I think he was kind of just been on that bubble, and I never really saw him making the team. So, and then you've got Sharping, McCray, and Taylor at guard, and then Britt and Toner at center. Where is McCollum? McCollum's a guard, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, McCollum.
Yep.
I think he's a center because he played center in A&M Aggies.
Okay.
So.
I'm a little biased because I know his uncle, so I kind of want him to make the team. I think it'd just be really cool.
He might make the practice squad.
Hey man, I'd be all for it. His family's out in Katy, and I used to work with his uncle, so it'd be kind of cool to see that that family have a little bit of excitement when it comes to watching the games. A hometown boy.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharping and McCray starting at guard, or Sharping and Taylor?
I think it'd be.
Oh wait, no. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
Titus.
Titus. So who's gonna start at right guard?
Shoot, weren't they play? Man, I don't want to lie, but I think I saw Sharping playing right guard last week. So if that's the case, if my eyes don't deceive me, I think it would be Howard and Sharping, and then McCray would be the backup guard.
Okay.
And then I don't know about Taylor now. I mean, because I know James Campen, he knows him a lot from their days in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think he'll have a little bit of trust that, once he's healthy, he can probably, or maybe perhaps they keep him on the initial roster and then they put him on IR. Perhaps, So
one thing that I think Nick may do with this is, being that Cannon's on the PUP list already and he's on the active PUP list. I don't know how this works rolling into the regular season, right? What he has to revert to IR or something like that once the regular season starts.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is possible, and I'll ask Troy later on with Texans Cap if this is possible, what if they kept Cannon on the PUP list into the season, and then if they feel like they need to activate him, they can activate him at any time and just make another roster move. So that way he doesn't affect the 53, and he's not on the practice squad, but he's still in the building. He's still in meetings and stuff like that. I wonder if that's a possibility. I need to see if that's a loophole that they can exploit to be able to carry an extra player. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's roll. And obviously Justin Britt's probably likely going to be the center starter. I like this offensive line group much better than what we had last year in the years past. I just feel like, there's guys in here that know what the hell they're actually doing. Nick Martin was a waste and an extreme overpay. It cost the Texans DJ Reader. I feel like that right there was one layer of the snowball that's been building since the Dwayne Brown trade years ago. That's just kind of put this team in the position they're in. So, all right, so we're going to hop over to the defense, and we'll start with one of the more crowded rooms right now that's kind of had some, in my opinion, the defensive line, specifically the tackles with Collins, Blacklock, Charles, Dunn, who's now gone, and Roy Lopez. So now you out of your 5, there's only 4 left. Who do you think takes Dunn's spot?
It would be between Jaleel Johnson and Vincent Taylor. And just from last week, it's a small sample size. Because obviously I heard good things on Taylor from Jordan, But I'd probably give it to Jaleel Johnson for right now, because he only had 2 tackles, but he had 2 fumble recoveries. And obviously that's not, he's not going to have 2 fumble recoveries every single game. That'd be pretty amazing, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So, but if he has, it kind of shows awareness, and it, obviously it's a little bit of luck, but at the same time, he's always around the ball, because most of the time when I'm seeing a game and there's a forced fumble, the O-line normally recovers it. So the fact that he hustled and he was able to, get the football both times, it shows that he's really he's really kind of, in a way, I guess he's hungry because he's on a 1-year contract. So it kind of
Yeah.
goes to speak to what we were saying earlier. So if he's, is he? And I'm pretty sure I was reading an article up on him that he can play both interior D line positions. So it's also a plus.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I kind of had a feeling Dunn was on the bubble. We've seen a lot of turnover in that group recently. Just specifically like I talked about it a little bit last night, but Carlos Watkins is gone, Angelo Blackson's gone, DJ Reader's gone, now Brandon Dunn's gone. So that was a couple years ago. Those were your 4 key guys on that defensive line. Now they're all gone. And you've got a bunch of new faces in there. Obviously, they drafted Ross. He's coming into year 2 now. Charles is going into year 3. And you've got Roy Lopez, who has quickly become a fan favorite, who's coming into his rookie season as a 7th round draft pick. But it's been talked about a lot. So I'm excited to see how he kind of does. All right, defensive ends. You got Merciless, Jenkins, Martin, Lawson, and Gernard. I have a feeling, and I think a couple other people around town do too. I'm kind of worried that Shaq Lawson doesn't make this roster.
Yeah, that's been the thinking of the past couple of days, because they had Shaq Lawson playing in the second half against the Packers. So that's pretty, in a way, that's a small red flag. Obviously you try not to overthink it or overlook it, but it's only one game. But obviously you haven't really heard a lot of positive things from camp regarding Shaq Lawson. And the only thing that would really, I guess, in a way, kind of annoy me is that the fact that whenever we acquired Shaq Lawson, he had no money guaranteed. So, but whenever we did the restructure, I mean, good for him. He got money. But from a GM perspective, I guess you want to save the most money possible, so you can carry it over to the next year. So if he doesn't end up making the final roster, we're paying him money for him not to be on this roster. So, but it's still pretty early. I still think he has a shot. Maybe tomorrow. If he has a good game tomorrow, I think most of those thoughts are going to be kind of go away, because he's still.
Yeah. I mean, looking at his contract, if they were to cut him now, they would carry 2.7 in dead. They'd only save 500,000. Next year they save 9. So I mean, that's kind of big. And I wonder if he has any. I'd have to get the actual contract language to see if he has any offsets to where if he goes and signs with another team, if his dead money falls down depending on what he signs for.
Because I don't see us cutting him, because we're going to pay him more money for him not to be here than for him to be on the roster. The savings are going to be very minimal overall. He's going to have to really, really suck for him not to make the roster.
I mean, at worst case, he's good depth, right?
Exactly. Because you never know, COVID, injuries, you never know. So, or maybe worst case scenario, we can trade him because his contract's pretty cheap for this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at the numbers right now, and the team will probably have to just take on 1.5 million for a player of Lawson's previous pedigree, or he can do some things better than just the average guy off the street. I could see Caserio, probably getting a 7th or a 6th round pick to a player maybe the Jets, because who's the best edge rusher right now that's available for the Jets, who just lost Carl Lawson?
Nobody.
Exactly. So
that market dried up real quick this year. So, all right, let's see. Linebacker group, who has had the most new faces, I think, out of any position on the team. Zach obviously going to be starting. Kirksey, Pierre Lewis, Wallow, Gruger Hill, and Hewitt. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know half of anything about any of these guys. I've seen a few things come out of camp of, so and so did this or so and so did that. Not getting to watch the game last week has kind of affected that, obviously. But tell me, who in that group besides Zach do you kind of see being that playmaker that this group has needed for a few years?
So the players I'm more convinced about right now, outside of Sack, obviously I'm kind of like I'm projecting on this because we didn't see him playing the first week because he was sidelined with a concussion. But Kevin Pierre-Louis, he's pretty athletic. He fits the 4-3 defense that the Texans want to run, and they signed him to a 2-year contract. So I feel like they're going to give him plenty of snaps to, obviously, play up to his contract. And then Kamu Grugier-Hill, I think, he was playing pretty good in the preseason. He was flying all over the place. He looked pretty athletic, pretty fast. Like, he's kind of what you want in a defender in a 4-3 defense. Like, he looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he's mainly a special teams player. But, last week, he looked pretty good. Looked pretty disruptive. So, from those 6, I have Cunningham, Pierre-Louis, Grugier-Hill as those 3, they're for sure going to make the final roster. And then, Garrett Wallow, I think he has a really good chance as a rookie draft pick. So it's 4 of those.
He was the 6th round pick, right?
Yeah. From TCU. Yeah. He was pretty good. So, I think it's mostly between Neville Hewitt and Christian Kirksey because both of those players, their contracts are pretty team-friendly. Like, they could easily cut them with very little financial loss. So those 2 players, but they're obviously the favorite ones because the other linebackers are Tavierre Thomas, Tavierre Thomas. No, I'm tripping. Hold on, let me look at the roster real quick.
Do you know? See. Go ahead. I was going to say Davis, I don't know where they sit as far as the top 51.
Yeah, so it's Tay Davis, Joe Thomas, and Hardy Nickerson. So it's those other 3 linebackers, but I don't see those really, making a really big splash. So obviously, I think Hewitt, who's coming off a 100+ tackle season, and Kirksey, both of those players, they've proven that they can be highly productive if they're starting.
Where are these? Okay, so Tavierre is there. Neville's there. Dang, all these guys are in the top 51 as far as contracts. So they're, no matter what, if any of them get cut, they affect the cap. Pierre-Louis will carry 2.2. Kirksey may be the one if it comes down to they look at the financials because he only carries a 500,000 dead cap at this point. It would save them just over 2. So, like you've said a couple times, every dollar counts going into these next few years until the jump starts to happen for that TV deal. Okay, so cornerbacks. We know Roby's going to make it, and he's out week 1. Desmond King, Mitchell, Hargraves, Thomas, and Smith. Who out of... I got to go with King and
Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't know. And Mitchell. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking. And then the other 3, just they come in if they go cover 4 or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The cornerback group is just, there's so many new faces, just like every other position. But I think those 3 kind of have it locked down. I'm interested to see who they trot out there week 1.
I hate that I'm even thinking this. I'm even manifesting it, but I think Hargraves has a good shot of starting week 1.
Yeah, put him in the slot.
Yeah.
Put him over the slot, man. That's his natural position. Let him cover the slot. Because who do the Jags have as a slot receiver? I mean, it's week 1.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it happen. Then we'll round it out with Reed, Murray, Johnson, and Moore. You think Lonnie and Justin start?
No. Because I think I think Eric Murray and Justin Reed.
Thanks. You think Lonnie comes off the bench, huh?
Yeah, because I think that's this other good point. I think is that this upcoming year we finally have a cornerback coach and Dino Vasso, and we have a safety coach, and I think it's Greg Jackson. That's something we didn't have in the past. We just had a DV coach in the past. So now that we have a safety coach also, and he's a former NFL player, he can relate to the players, and I think he knows better than most if Lonnie Johnson's not going to be ready for Week 1 because he's still hold up.
Toby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. All right. But yeah, he's
for
that was
anybody
a
that's
good.
listening and that's not on the show, that's not watching the live stream right now, one of our viewers right now that just said Vernon Hargraves has been social distancing for a while now, so we tend to agree.
But yeah, I think Greg Jackson knows better than most about where Lonnie Johnson is at right now. So early on in his career, so I think it wouldn't hurt to just have Lonnie Johnson come in as a backup player if there's any injuries or Eric Murray struggles.
All right, and then we know who the special teams are going to be. We know John Weeks, Cameron Johnson, and Kaimi are going to be your special teams guys. So that rounds out the 53. At least your 53 projection. I'm going to work on mine and hopefully have it for everybody next week. Just those things are really not my forte, but I'm gonna give it a shot and I'm gonna see how it goes. When is the next cut? Is it after this game or
It's next Tuesday.
next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll wait until Wednesday to start working on it then, so that way I don't get blindsided like you do.
Yeah.
Because I know Brandon Dunn kind of blindsided a lot of people this early on, but the Texans did the right thing. He's a veteran guy. He's going to get picked up somewhere else. This gives him an opportunity to get in there while camp is still going on. Learn a defense, and he's not, scrambling to sign, with somebody just before Week 1. So they did the right thing, and he's not upset about it. I talked to him last night. And in his time here, he did an interview with me and James. He's a really cool guy. He was really great to talk to. I would definitely wish him the best. To just kind of, one of those guys that I've been able to talk to and, bounce some things off for a few years, just get his opinion on things. And it just kind of sucks that, you see a guy like that leave. But I'll keep in contact with him. So, all right. So they got the Cowboys tomorrow. This imaginary interstate rival that some people have drummed up. And David Culley mentioned earlier in the week that anybody that's available will play. So I think the only person that maybe not available right now is Cannon, Taylor, or Johnson, Tunsil, and
Deshaun Maybe.
I think we obviously know that Deshaun's not going to be there.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of new because I don't think we in the past few years, we haven't seen a game this early in the preseason where they've trotted, the potential starting group out there in week 2 of preseason. So I think it's it'll be interesting to see it. Hopefully it makes for some good football. It'd be interesting to see what McCarthy and the Cowboys do. Whether I don't think Dak's going to play, right? Like Dak's got a nagging injury right now or something lingering.
They said that Dak and Elliott, they're not going to play tomorrow, but the defense is going to start. Their starting defense.
Okay, so that'll be cool. That'll be really cool to see. For the most part, the starting offense go against a starting defense. The Cowboys have had a lot of turnover recently with losing some guys. They lost Byron Jones. Their defensive line has been kind of all over the place, and so I think it'll be interesting to see how that kind of holds up. It'll be good to see some quote unquote real football. For a change. It's been months. So what are you most looking forward to tomorrow night out of this team?
It probably seems kind of funny that we're talking about special teams so much, but Seth Roberts, because he hasn't been practicing the last couple of weeks. So that's, I don't know. It's kind of got me curious because his contract is pretty much guaranteed. So we can't really cut him, but we can trade him, and another team could take some of his money. So, we have so many returners right now on the roster. We have Alex Erickson, we have Desmond King. So I don't think it's a given that. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I think it's pretty interesting that he hasn't been practicing the last couple of weeks. Maybe he's hurt or whatever, but if he's not playing on this upcoming game, for me, it kind of raises kind of questions like, is he really hurt, or why are they, why is he not playing? Why is he not practicing? I mean, I know he's a vet and he's been around the league for a while, so, but it still kind of has me.
He's how old is he? 32?
Yeah,
33?
he's up there.
Something like that.
Yeah. Mm.
So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see. Obviously, the quarterback play, right? Like, I want to see more of Mills. Some people I've seen he's the next Andrew Luck. I've seen he's the next. It's way too early to put that comparison. Nobody will ever be Andrew Luck, right? Like, Andrew Luck came in and set the league on fire really early on in his career, and then things just kind of spiraled out of control. But I'm excited to see, and having two viable quarterbacks is never a bad thing, right? If either of those guys can go out there and just manage the game and keep you in it, then I feel like if the defense, which we're really putting a lot of thought into about turnovers and stuff like that, if they can go out there and make some more opportunities for the offense, then it can make for an exciting year. I'm still not expecting much, but I feel like they can maybe do some things that earlier on in the summer we weren't expecting out of this roster. So,
and to that point, I feel even the coaching staff, like, they know what Tyrod Taylor really is, because David Coley, he's been dropping little, hints throughout the, press conferences that he's been saying that he's been using the word manage a lot when he was talking about Davis Mills, and he's talking about Tyrod Taylor. So he knows that, they're not going to come in and throw for like 4,000 yards or anything like that. They know the coaching staff is aware of their limitations. So hopefully, we establish the run, or we just have a really good run game, because that's ultimately what's going to carry us if we're going to have a good game against future opponents.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think the coaching staff is not setting false expectations, one for the fans and two for themselves. I think they kind of know where things are at, and they understand what this team is going through right now. And they're just gonna, they're gonna take it week by week and just see how things go. But yeah, man, that's, you got anything you want to add? I think we just passed the hour mark. You got anything else you want to talk about that's bugging you?
More so, we could just talk. I mean, if the audience has any questions, we could probably just answer them if there's any. I don't know. I can't see the chat, but
you can't see it.
No, and I think it's better that way too, because I would probably get distracted.
Yeah, if y'all got any questions, go ahead and drop them real quick, and I'll do my best. I'll read them to Jair and get his thoughts and go from there. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like I said earlier in the season, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot out of this team. Earlier in the summer, with everything that happened, I know at it was January 5th when Nick Caserio was hired. I made a really bold statement at the time saying that hiring Nick was going to be one of the worst things that's ever happened in the history of this franchise. I kind of got to take that back, because I feel like he's come in, and given the situation, he's done a very, very incredible job of managing this team and getting them, on the right track to some success in the near future. So I think it was a little bit of an emotional comment that I made that night, just because of everything that was going on and who I was talking to at the time whenever that story broke.
Mhm.
Because I was told something right there on the spot that ended up happening. So let's get over here. Will Lopez make the team?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Roy Lopez is making this team. Brandon Dunn wouldn't have been cut if Roy Lopez wasn't making this team. So, claims FBI investigation. I'm not gonna anything that has to do with all that, guys. We're not gonna talk about. That's just, it's not right. We don't know enough about it. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, Pat. Who do you have as your receivers? I mean, because I had Chris Moore as my last receiver.
I'm still going to roll with Anthony Miller. And it may just be a case of, they run with Moore to start the season, and then once Miller is cleared, because I think coming back off of IR this year is only 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Like, you only got to miss 3 weeks. So if they keep Moore for 3 weeks and then Miller is healthy, which by all accounts he should be, then he may be the long-term answer at that position. So I think the same 5 you have, but then Miller for the bulk of the season.
Yeah, because the reason why I went with Chris Moore was because he has his pass with David Culley,
Mhm.
and so does Chris Conley. So I think he's going to want to have familiar faces, receivers that he knows and that he can count on for at least for the first part of the season. And then obviously if Anthony Miller comes back healthy, they could probably just roll with him.
See, Remy the Phoenix asks, should we kick the tires on Rosen? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I probably prefer him over Jeff Driscoll because he didn't see the game, but oh my god,
Trust me, I saw everybody's comments.
it was yeah, man, it was really bad. So in that perspective, sure, why not? Because he's still a young quarterback. Obviously, he hasn't shown much, but you never know. You always have those. I'm not saying it's going to be Kurt Warner, but you have those quarterbacks that they're just late bloomers, even in the NFL. You never know. Yeah. So
who knows? Maybe it may be a good situation to put yourself in, and I think he might have some opportunity to get a little more action somewhere else. So I think that's kind of how that'll unfold for him. Think Nick can swap players instead of cutting certain players, kind of like what they did with Carlos Hyde. I mean, maybe David, if the opportunity presents itself. I don't know. He kind of did that that's what they did with Benardrick McKinney. There was a really good chance that BMAC wasn't going to make this roster, and they went ahead and they traded him for a guy that, that they could utilize hopefully in Shaq. And so, who knows? I mean, there's always teams that are going to need guys around the cuts, the cut deadlines, that are going to have their eyes on guys that would, be willing to trade, a small amount of capital to not let that guy hit the streets and get, talking to other teams. So, who knows? It's very possible. I don't know. I know Nick is always looking to, he's very active. Let's just say that Nick is probably one of the more active GMs when it comes to working other teams in the phones and stuff like that. So,
and who knows? Maybe Kahale Warren falls into that circumstance. Maybe he's a former 3rd round pick. He's obviously not going to see any time here, but maybe another team doesn't want to risk him being claimed in the waiver wire. They would probably just give up.
Be subject to waivers though, because I don't know how that works. He might be subject to waivers.
I think he is. He's still on his rookie contract.
I'll have to check. You're probably right. I'm probably thinking of it backwards, because I know they have something where there's like a vested veteran thing when they reach a certain point that they don't go on waivers, that they're just an automatic street free agent.
Yeah.
But that's a question for Texans Cap, not me. Yeah. Let's see. Scroll through some of these. Dang, y'all got a lot. Does Driscoll make the 3rd preseason game? I think so, probably, just because of the fact that they, the third and fourth preseason games, they don't tend to trot the starters out there as much, and try to avoid injury. Ryan says, tell Jair thank you for doing all that research and finding all these player coaching connections that were old. Yeah, that's one thing. If you guys aren't following Jair right now, JRLTU, go give him a follow. He is constantly dropping little nuggets and tidbits and finding these connections and stuff like that. And you guys are definitely missing out. So good point, Ryan.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Owen asks, is it I don't know if I really want to touch on that. We'll do it. Screw it. Is it possible for this team to possibly make a wild card without Watson?
I would say no.
They got expanded playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Given who's in the division,
yeah,
no, I don't see it.
I mean, just playing devil's advocate. I mean, as long as we do good in the division, we're always gonna have a shot. Because I said last year when we started off, 0-4, I wasn't really worried about it because we still hadn't played any of the AFC South teams, and in most of those games, we were in it till the end. So I feel this year, with Carson Wentz, he's still a big question mark, and Trevor Lawrence, he's also a big question mark. So it's possible we might take those games. I'm not saying we will, but there's the opportunity. If we create enough turnovers, if we control the possession of time of possession, we have better running backs than last year. Because I'm pretty sure we were pretty bad in that stat last year. So we can just manage the time. Tyrod Taylor, he doesn't turn the ball over. At least it's proven for the stats back it up. So. And then now we have bigger receivers. There was times last year we got in the red zone. Obviously it's Sean's. He would put the offense in the red zone all the time, but he didn't have the receivers. He only had Brandon Cooks, and like the last 5-6 games, Fuller was out, so it was just the Brandon Cooks show. This year we got big receivers. They offer a little bit of speed. All that stuff they got. So I would lean no. But I wouldn't, I could see it happening, but I would lean no right now. Just, it's
There's
probably
always that one team every year in the NFL that makes, that shocks everybody, and makes a concerted effort and gets into and sneaks into the playoffs. And I'll say this as a fan and maybe the ultimate homer speak here, but I think what cooler story would it be than this team to be that team to do it? New head coach, all the drama surrounding everything in the offseason, whether it be Deshaun or Jack Easterby or Cal or, whatever, right? Letting JJ go, just all the things that have gone on in the past. Like, what better storyline would it be than for this team to sneak into the playoffs? I think it'd be cool. But
and then the thing too is that would that be beneficial in terms of the draft? Obviously the players don't care about the draft slot.
Yeah,
they're gonna play to win. But like big picture perspective, does that benefit us?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, I mean definitely like the position they're in right now. You want to have the higher pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we say that, but just because you have a higher pick doesn't necessarily mean that player is going to absolutely work out. We've seen it time and time again. How many first round picks end up, just flaming out after a year or two? So I don't know. I mean, it's still early on. We're going into week 2. Take on the Cowboys tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. And so I saw one question in here. Then they asked if this is supposed to be a weekly thing. Yeah. So Jair and I are going to be. It's very likely going to be every Friday night. We'll record. May not always be live, just depending on how things are going. But we plan on doing this every Friday night, and just kind of doing a weekly prep for the game that's coming up. Do they have a Thursday night game this year?
Shoot, let me check real quick.
if they have a Thursday night game, that we kind of would end up doing the recap, and then James and John may, do something else. But so kind of how we had planned it to go was James and John will recap the weekend before on Tuesdays, and then Jair and myself would kind of set up for the upcoming game.
Week 3 against the Panthers, Thursday Night Football.
Okay, so we can do that. That'd be kind of cool. We would just follow up with the following week, and do something like that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, we plan on doing it every week. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I know it's Friday night and you guys are busy and you guys got plans and stuff like that. And that's why we tried to start it at 8 o'clock. So it's a little bit earlier than the normal show on Tuesdays at 9. So that way you guys still have time to get out and, go do some stuff. Don't hang up your night for us. But this will be posted tomorrow, hopefully, on all your favorite podcast stations for anybody that didn't catch the entire show. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Patrick Storm again, and that is Jair Lopez sitting across from me. Give him a follow, JRLTU, on Twitter. Great follow. Thank you guys. We'll see y'all.